Hey, take the hits that we make, put them on replay, give us all PAID, okay? Follow your heart, play your part to the fullest. You got dreams, shoot them off like bullets. Most folks never know what it's like. Follow your dreams, let them lead you to the light. Follow your heart, play your part to the fullest. You got dreams, shoot them off like bullets. Most folks never know what it's like. Follow your dreams, let them lead you to the light.
Prophecies of the ghetto are yet to come. Every time we hear the shots, all the folks be looking dumb. In the summer, sometimes free lunch was a blessing. Families waiting on aid checks and stressing. Police harassing, testing. Different pictures of my homies stressing, but not in peace. Steady stacking their name on the balls and on their chief. I'm sick of this funeral grief.
Halfway off, yo, it's my turn up part. If I can see the finish line, I get the win in my heart. Had to leave some friends of mine way back at the start. We'll meet again every swing when we gather with God. Meantime, figure out how to streamline. Summer, winter, fall, turn of art to springtime. Trees with new leaves, yards with new grass. Taste the new green and lace the blue packs. Follow your heart, play your part to the fullest. You got dreams, shoot them off like bullets. Most folks never know what it's like. Follow your dreams, let them lead you to the light. Follow your heart, play your part to the fullest. You got dreams, shoot them off like bullets.
How you doing?
Most folks never know what it's like. Follow your dreams,
I see you,
let them
Anthony.
lead
I
you
see
to
you,
the
fam.
light.
I see you.
Okay, I want to welcome you to the #1 internet radio station, intellectualradio.com, and this is Rhythm Flow Radio. You just got through listening to a track by Diamond Z called Follow Your Heart.
Featuring PHM.
Beg your pardon?
Featuring PHM Versatility.
Featuring PHM Versatility. Is that the lead singer or the lead rapper?
They collaborated.
They collaborated on it. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, welcome to the #1 internet radio station, intellectualradio.com, an iHeart radio station. Today is Friday, and it is the third Friday of the month, and you know what that means. That means welcome to our special segment, a conversation with Brother Raymond. I want to tell you that I am big and beautiful. I am fat, but oh so fabulous. I'm plump, but honey, I'm too pretty. But most of all, I'm confident. But most of all, I'm confident. I'm the big sister of Rhythm Flow Radio, your host, Katie Lowe. I want to thank you for exploring internet radio and helping us grow our network. We want to now give the brother the mic, because you know he ain't nothing but a preacher, man. We're going to turn this show over. Listen, I'm not going to go through any changes today. I'm not going to talk about Donald Trump. I'm not going to talk about nothing that's happening in the media. I'm not going to even talk about the capture of the Cleveland killer. I'm not going to talk about anything. I'm going to let Brother Raymond do his thing, and I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to learn something today. So without further ado, Brother Raymond Richards.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another conversation with Brother Raymond. I am your host, Brother Raymond. First and foremost, we're giving all honor to God, who is the head of our lives, waking us up, keeping us in the right frame of mind. I'd like to give a special shout out to my wife, the Queen, Lisa Richards. She's in the hospital getting well. We hope you get soon well, baby. Family, today we'll be talking about depression. This is a very, very serious matter, and a lot of us walk around not even knowing that we have it. So let me start it off. Growing up in Cabrini Green, being the youngest of 4, I joined a gang at the age of 11. By the time I was 14, I was in juvenile detention. By the time I was 17, I was in Cook County Jail. And by the time I was 21, I was facing 10 years in the penitentiary for attempted murder. Needless to say, I took my mother through a whole lot of stuff, and I didn't understand at the time what was going on, but I was causing so much stress and pain on my mother that it was driving her crazy. and I didn't know that being a single parent mom, she can endure so much. But my heart goes out to my mom for enduring all the pain and suffering that we have caused her, and I know she's smiling down on me now, saying I finally got it, and I'm thanking God for sending her to a better place. Growing up gangbanging in the city of Chicago at a young age, going through many gang fights, many shootouts, many funerals, it causes a form of depression. I have been depressed since the age of 14. Right to this day, with all kind of dreams and nightmares of what happened in the past. And I can tell you right now that some days I'm up and running, and some days I'm very low. Some days I isolate myself, and sometimes I'm out with the people. That's just another form of depression, because I'm so depressed at my life, where it was going, when I was strung out on drugs, all the above, and that is a form of depression. A lot of people don't understand that addicts are depressed. Even though we use to live and live to use, we are still depressed, because one of the things is we don't know how to stop. And we can't get that help. We can't get that deliverance from God. So we walk around in a depressing stage. Like now. You know, my wife is very, very, very depressed. She has an illness that she can't seem to shake, and it causes her to go into an isolated stage where she is very, very quiet. She cries a lot. You know, she's frustrated, and she gets angry because they can't tell us what's going on with her right now. So it's very, very, very depressing to know that you have an illness that you don't even know what it is. Also, being penitentiary institutionalized, that can cause depression. You know, it's so many different forms of depression out here, you know, that a lot of us have symptoms and we don't even recognize it. You know, it's very depressing to be out in the streets doing all the stuff that I do, and the brothers don't seem to get it. You know, they won't stop shooting, they won't put the guns down, they won't stop selling drugs, they won't stop hurting our own people. That is very, very depressing. To Justice Sampson, we were talking about mental illness, because it all ties in together. You know, we are walking around mentally ill and won't nobody even talk about it. And the doctors in the hospital and nobody can tap into my depression and what was going on, the symptoms that was going on. So I was in a very dark space then, playing Russian roulette with a 38 Smith & Wesson. I was in a dark space because I was depressed. It's an illness, it's a form of illness, and it comes from various things. Living in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, that's very depressing. Living in a single-parent home, that's very depressing because they're there, but they're not there. So now you get depressed, and as I tell you, resentment, anger, and violence. But that comes from a form of depression. And so we just want to talk about what's going on today with depression. And if you got any comments, come on, comment, chime in, because we have an hour to discuss this, and we really need to get into this.
You know what? I heard you say depression. Depression covers such a broad area.
Yes, it does.
Okay, and it can be from violence, like you say, incarceration. It can be from illness. Somebody in your family, yes. I'm just saying because your wife is sick right now, and she has an illness that I guess they haven't pinpointed at this time, and it's caused her to be in and out the hospital. The area that you live in, the things that are going on in your environment, all of these are, can cause one to be depressed. But I wish we had somebody medical here, or somebody maybe that was listening that had a medical that could give us other symptoms.
That's depressing,
It ain't depressing to me. I'm just a big girl and I like to eat. I'm good with that.
But being talked about, called out your name, or you don't have the latest clothes and they ragging you all the time, you can get depressed, and people act out of their depression, because they're hurt, because you're hurting their feelings, When we being, when you being put in a position like that, we never know what one would do. That's why you have a lot of homeless people right now. They probably was top of their game, lost their job, lost everything, and they went into a form of depression. So that's one of the things. It's like giving up on life, from my perspective.
Well, Raymond, it's a thing that I think I heard you say one day, that we're all one situation away.
Yes.
Just one situation away from being homeless.
Yes,
we all are. We may not believe it, but you could have a fire, be dislocated, in a place where you don't want to be. Things are not moving fast enough for you. You can become depressed.
I've been depressed for a while. I'm depressed with all the work I do throughout the city of Chicago. With all these great leaders that I be around, not even one of them took the chance to even offer me a job. I'm talking about not one of them. No one said, well, hey, Brother Raymond, I know you're struggling right now. Do you think you can, we got a little position for you for right now until you get to where you're trying to go? Not one. That's very depressing that I can give out all I give and yet I receive nothing. And one of the things I'll be talking about is how they study acts for more. They study acts of you, but nobody is replenishing what you're giving out. So that now, it's spiritual forms of depression as well. And so what I be looking at is like, wow, really? And then you asking, you got to borrow. You got to ask people for, for some money and things of that nature, that's depressing. Always you ain't got enough food in the house. The kids ain't got no clothes, or your house nasty. That's a form of depression.
Yeah, but that house being nasty, that excuse me, that house is lazy.
But we get to we get in those situations to where we just give up, and people don't even understand what's going on with you because one, they never took the time to even ask what's going on. Mm-hmm. Two, they can't even recognize when you're in a depressive stage, and three, basically nobody even cares because it's like on social media they laugh at you. I've seen many pictures of homeless people and people strung out on drugs and people taking them Molly pills and losing their mind and stuff like that, and it's a form of entertainment. Just like I have to bring it up, the old man who got killed, the little girl got raped. That's another way. Being raped, being victimized, that's trauma. Being shot, you can fall into a depression because you don't know if you're gonna be shot again. So now, you fall into a deep depression where a lot of the kids don't even come outside no more. They would just stay in the house and play their video games or just watch TV all day or just be on social media because they're depressed. They can't even come outside and play. That's a form of depression. You can't play in your own neighborhood. You can't play in the ballparks in the city of Chicago or the park district. So that's another form of depression. And people are not looking at that.
Okay, but, I just heard you say that you talking about the work that you do in the community. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this, I don't care if somebody gets mad because, I don't care. But in Chicago, this is a crooked city.
Yes, it is.
I'm just going to say it like it is. Mm-hmm. This is a crooked city. This state is a pimp. It pimps. This state is a pimp and the city is a pimp.
Right.
And the people that live here, including me, are being prostituted. Mm-hmm. Okay? And this is how we're being prostituted. If you want a job with the city of Chicago, you got to go to that alder person, or that ward, what they call ward commitment. You got to be a foot soldier. Yeah. You got to be a foot soldier. You cannot go there and say, I graduated from high school, or I graduated from college, or I graduated from trade school, and I happened to go to the city of Chicago, to the site where they had the jobs at. Mm-hmm. And I found 3 jobs in here that I qualify for.
Right.
Okay? And I would like for you, Alderman Richards, to
the act, and it's just my opinion, we overlook why they picks and choose of who they want to be in this position at this particular time. Like you say, it ain't what you know, it's who you know. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, a lot of times, that instance, like returning citizens, men and women come home from prison. Everywhere they go for a job, they being turned press. by nature. So these are the things that, causes, the forms of causing depression, like the children that were left in the house by themselves without nothing to eat, an abandoned building, that's a form of depression, or being beat and abused, that causes to a form of depression where people just, if you ever seen a person that walk the streets and don't say nothing to nobody, just walking, and they talking to themselves. We call them crazy.
I think that's a form of mental illness.
But but it's all tied in together.
Okay.
Because I got so depressed to where I don't even speak out. I don't speak to people. I don't see anything. Just like when people lay out in the streets, it's something happening there. That you don't just wake up, as I always say. You don't just wake up and say you're gonna be a criminal, drug dealer, rapist, killer, none of that. It's something happened along the way that causes that person to fall in that category, whether they were enticed or whether it happened to them and they wanted revenge and things of that nature. But nobody in their right frame of mind wakes up. Just like, for instance, our ancestors, they were put in a ship, chained, and brought over here to America, forced to work against their will for the white man. That's a form of depression. A lot of them tried to escape. A lot of them fought back to get killed because they said they'd rather die than to be a slave. But that's a form of depression. And our history in itself is a form of depression. When you look at all the traumatization we accepted as a people, that can cause depression, it can cause anger, and it causes violence, because we are great people. We are chosen people. This nation was built on our ancestors' back, and for you to not accept us for who we are, that can cause a form of depression too. And always by the color of our skin, that's very depressing. Or this person gets the job because she's lighter than you are, or she's slimmer than you, or he's taller than you, or he looks better than you, So these are all forms of depression that we are dealing with, we've been dealing with for so long. So nobody has addressed these issues, and until we address these issues for what it is, then you're going to have these young men and women running around here doing what they're doing, and all the backlash we're getting is because nobody's listening.
Okay, I want to say this because, we both can't sit here and agree on everything, so I've got to be the antagonist. When I look at these young people in the street, and I look at the way some of them dress, and I look at the way that some of them act, but I don't see all of them acting that way.
Right.
I see some of them going to school, getting an education, and bettering themselves. I see some of them that don't go to school. I see some of them that hang on corners every day. I'm saying, this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Something has to start at home. Something has to start when that child is growing up.
Exactly.
Okay? And the reason I say that, there has to be a structure. There has to be a foundation. Okay? And I'm just saying, this is just me talking. This is just my opinion. I'm not an authority. I'm not an expert. I'm just talking about how Fred and Cleo raised 8 children. Okay. There was a structure, and there was some things that they didn't play. I mean, I admit that kids are gonna sneak and do things, okay, and gonna get in trouble.
Right.
But the way these kids are acting now in 2017, I've acted out, should I say, for the past 3 years, and it has just totally gotten out of control. It's out of hand, okay? And it's never too late to turn it. What they're doing makes the people that live in their community. I mean, I'm totally depressed. I mean, when I ride down the street and they walk out in front of the car and just stand there and look at you, and everybody's got a what is it? Conceal.
Carry.
So now you just don't know, even driving. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying that some of the things these kids do, it starts in that house.
Right. And it's depressing to see that. And it's also depressing to them what they might have went through that we don't know nothing about.
Okay.
You know, as far as the abuse, the neglect, you know, fatherless household, you know, mother on drugs or on alcohol or what, and you are young yourself, you're a child, and you got 2 young brothers and sisters, and you have to raise them. You got to feed them, you got to bathe them, you got to watch them, you got to make sure they do their homework. So now you have taken on the adult role, and it's very depressing because that child cannot be a child because he's forced to be an adult at an early age. Yes, it's very depressing when we ride down the streets and look on the corners and see our brothers on the corners selling drugs, hanging out, drinking, whatever. It's also very depressing to see our brothers and sisters laying out under the viaducts. That's very depressing. It's very depressing to see our brothers walking up and down the street like they lost their mind. It's very depressing. And the way that the economy is treating us is very, very depressing because we look for the people in charge to take charge, but they're not taking charge. In fact, they're the ones, the oppressor, instead of oppressing the oppressed, and that causes even more depression. And that makes us act out and rebel and do all some of the things we do. Because if you take a child and you sit a child down and you talk to them straight up, you'll be amazed at what you'll find out, what's really going on with them. And I agree, the household, and I agree that the household is shattered. But it was shattered from the start, and we don't even know the symptoms from that. Mm-hmm. Because they won't be able to see my face. Yeah. So that's why it's like, who or what? Where did this all start? Mm-hmm. So there's another form of depression. Mm-hmm. Because you don't know. So that's one of the things we have to talk about. So y'all come on, tune in. Give me some ideas. Give me some comments. Because I'm sure listening right now.
Okay. We just got to move Brother Raymond around.
Yeah, they move me around, man. They doing all...
So if you get out of control, I can step on his foot.
So, yeah, but the depression stages is much more meat than an eye. You know? So we have to be careful with that, and we have to be mindful that we are going through something. We are all going through something. It's just that having the willingness to overcome it is the thing. And I'm just grateful to God that I was able to overcome some of the stuff that I went through, and I'm not so depressed as I used to be.
Okay. I'm gonna get off into your situation, and I know you might not like it, and you won't have to answer the question. But today, ain't nobody in the room but me and you.
Right.
Me, you, and Jesus, because He's listening to us.
Amen.
Okay. Earl Winfrey not in here, and ain't nobody in the studio but me and you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you were growing up, you already told people that when you was growing up, so many ways you kind of did what you wanted to do as a young man. Mm-hmm. And I know your mother probably was a strict parent. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what caused you to be hard-headed now, Lucy?
Because I was very resentful. Because my father had left. And I always carried that with me for a long time because I looked for a father figure. He wasn't there. Okay. You know, and I needed him to teach me how to become a man. You know, my first time, you know, I want to run and talk to Daddy. Daddy, I got this girl I really like. He wasn't there, so I had to talk to my mom. You know?
Okay, I'm going to say this to you. Back probably in the 40s probably in the 40s and 50s, there were single parent homes. They don't glorify it like they did do it today, but there were single parents. There were women who had children and didn't have a husband. But when they talked about that village then, there probably was an uncle, there probably was the people in the church, there probably was people that lived in the neighborhood. And probably when you did something that was wrong or that was disrespectful, that neighborhood,
exactly.
Okay, they came and got you by your hand and they disciplined you.
Right, but that's a disconnect from what we got today. For instance, like I see Yolanda Jackson. Yolanda say back then the kids had things to do, but now they don't have nothing to do because they don't have centers to go to. And then she also go on to say they took everything away from the black community, so the kids just hang out on the streets. And she has some justification in that. And then Angelique Phillips said mass incarceration of our black brothers, which they all have points because this is depressing. Mm-hmm. When you in a complex, when you're in a penitentiary with over 1,800 people, men, and you are there for whether it's long or short periods of time, you become depressed because first of all you let yourself down.
Okay, that's why you're there.
You let yourself down because you made the decision to do something that you know you shouldn't have done. So you're depressed about that, like, man, I knew I can do better than what I did. And now you have to stay there because now you're under government authority and there's no way out. Then what about when you're in the penitentiary and you have no people? You don't have no family on the outside. So that's in my book, and I say you are labeled as a water. And now you have to work these jobs like a slave for 25 and 35 cents an hour, and you might get maybe $20 or $25 a month. And just imagine if you had 5 or 10 years,
and you're working for 25 hours.
And you got to work, and this is what you have to do. There is no. This is non-negotiable. You get depressed. You in there depressed. You ain't got clean underwear. You ain't got clean socks. Everything you got is borrowed from other inmates and stuff like that. That's very depressing. You know what I'm saying? And when a young man who want to work, they don't want to be on the street selling drugs, but don't nobody give them a job and they want to work. That's depressing. Saying, man, I will work. I will go to work and show up on time every day and do what I have to do, but they won't give me an opportunity. That's very depressing. That's just like in our communities. You look around now, they're rebuilding everything in our communities. You don't see nobody that look like us in our communities rebuilding. That's very depressing.
Well, in our communities, when they're building, and you can tell when they're doing something. You ever seen the green canvas, the fence?
Yeah.
And the green canvas, you know it's something going on back there.
Yeah. And what about the signs? They put the signs up letting you know what's about to come there. So,
some of them don't put the signs up. They just built right here on Laramie and probably Congress. Mm-hmm. The state, there's one of those state road departments over there where the highway where they had the trucks and they just expanded that all the way down to Laramie Street. They had the green canvas forever around there.
Look at CTA. CTA is just expanding the red line from 95th to the Argyle Gardens. Right? How many black youth do you think is on that job?
I don't know, but let me have this young man on my show. I'm glad you brought that up. CTA has a program, and I'm not taking up from the CTA because I'm a retired bus operator.
Yes, you is.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
yes,
not.
Yes, she is, man.
No, I'm not. CTA does have a program for ex-offenders.
Returning
citizens. I am so sorry. Forgive me. Don't turn me into Spicer. Forgive me, please.
I'm just going to keep it right.
Keep me right. Okay, for returning citizens. They do have a program. They also have a program if you are out there on drugs and you can get yourself together, if you can get clean.
Yeah.
You can get a job with the CTA.
But I'm glad you said that.
I'm going to tell you this. I got a young man that's gonna come on the show. Hold on.
And that's good.
I know, cause I know.
Yeah.
I got a young man that's gonna come on the show, and I took a videotape of him when he was in his stuff, and I used to talk to him all the time. Mm-hmm. And his father his father is deceased, but he used to play for the Bears.
Okay.
And he was on them drugs, and he got himself together. I think I told him that they were having a program where they were hiring, or he found out, and he came and he told me he was going. He went, and the next thing I know, it wasn't 6 weeks later, he was cleaning the buses.
Yeah.
And right now, guess what he does? He's a full-time employee of the CTA.
Yeah.
And he is in customer service.
Mm-hmm.
He made a commitment to himself to get clean.
Exactly.
He said, "Cause I found myself." He said, "And I found out I love myself." And he said, once I did that, he changed his life.
But how many of us? It's very rare that a lot of us do that. Now, in most instances, you have to have somebody there to help you. You know, like a mentor or a sponsor. That's why these things are so important right now, today, that's out on the streets, because there's not enough of them. Now, with some of us that can wake up with a conscious mind, make a conscious decision, say, I'm through drinking, I'm through smoking, I'm through gang banging, I'm through stealing. Whereas others who need help with that, because that's become an addictive behavior. You know, and the cleanup program for CTA, that's a great program. I'm not taking nothing away from that, but I'm looking at the bigger projects. So like the violence that's in the city of Chicago right now, one of the ways to reduce it is to employ some of them. If you get some of them young brothers some jobs and work them 8 to 10 hours a day, and I'm talking about work them, they're going to be too tired to do anything else but go in the house, go to bed, and get up and do it again. And then what you will find is they will start to like what they're doing, and then they will shy away from it altogether. But it's a process, and there's got to be somebody there. Now, back to the red line. Now, we have all these aldermen. We have all these state representatives. I'm willing to bet you, with all of them together, we won't have half as many blacks on that project, which is almost a 3 to 4 year project. Will not be half black. It may be some black, but it won't be half black, which it should be, because you're building in your community. And you're entitled to this. It's not like, and then it's a program, yeah, you got to go through the program, but then again, it's back to who you know. So if I know that I can say, hey, Katie Lowe worked for CTA for such a year, she got a little juice, and I call you and say, hey, Katie, I'm trying to get in this program, and you know somebody, then you call and say, hey, I got my nephew, my cousins, my cousin. And it's favoritism. There's a lot of it going around.
I tell them, really, but I don't know anybody. But you know what I always tell them? I left there in good standing, and you can use me as personal reference. I do tell people that. But a lot, I still say, I agree with you. They need programs. They need jobs.
Yes.
But they need to apply themselves. It has to.
I'm with you on that.
Okay.
But the whole thing is, when I can't identify who I am,
okay,
then how can I be somebody? I don't even know who I am. When I was out there on drugs, I didn't know who I was. I was living a facade of somebody who I thought I was, or a name that everybody knew. Commercial like Cheers, you want to go where everybody know your name. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I did. I have had to learn who I was. I am Raymond Richard.
How did you learn?
One day at a time. I had got a sponsor. I had to go to some programs. I had to take some steps. I had to get some outside help to help me identify who I was, because we walk around here lost in a facade. Like, what's my man named? Benson, George Benson. We lost in a masquerade. Mm-hmm. We on the social media, all that stuff plays an important part of why our children are doing what we're doing and why we're depressed. Like, a lot of times, like dude was sick. He was mentally ill. And he went around, he lost his girlfriend. And he said,
talking about the
dude in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And he took it out on everybody else. Because there was something upstairs He didn't know how to deal with the situation. You know, you're not taught how to deal with certain situations. That's what causes the outbreak and the violence that goes throughout the city and throughout the world, because people don't know how to deal with that. That's why some people can, but a lot of people can't, and we need that. And every young man, I don't care what nobody say, needs their father in their life or a father figure. But the father figure, if it's not the father, have to have permission to raise him as a young man, because a woman just cannot raise a young man. She can do the best she can. Now, we have had many women who have raised young men come out to be great young men, and I take my hats off to them. But the majority of us need a man. Someone is going to tell us, no, go sit down.
Some of those young men, you know, I got to be the antagonist. Some of those young men, when they get a father figure, they get a male figure. He don't have to be a father figure. He could just be a mentor. He could be an uncle. He could be a cousin. He could be a next door neighbor. And when they go to him and try to talk to him, you ain't my daddy.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what to do.
And this is why. Because first they did not build a relationship with that young man.
Okay.
You cannot just go in telling me what to do and you don't even find out the system. I'm depressed. How are you going to tell me you better go sit down? I'm already depressed because my dad is gone, and then here you come with this forceful, instead of building a relationship with me, asking me, what's going on, Raymond? Why are you acting out like that? There's something going on. You care to share with me? And take your time and build that relationship. And like Child said, all you need to know is Jesus. He will open doors. Amen. No man can close. It's called favor. People don't want to walk the true Christian, and that's agreeable to it as well. But getting back to what I'm talking about, the little boy playing in the sandbox, right? All by himself when everybody's out there in the park, and you say, why is this little boy out there playing in the sandbox? He ain't running. He ain't in the swings. They ain't playing tag. He ain't playing no sport. He's just in the sandbox. Because he's isolated. That's a form of depression, because he feels like he's all alone. She feels like she's all alone. And they wonder, why does young girl act out the way she... Maybe something happened to her in our household. So we always talk about it starts in the household, but a lot of the stuff that happens in the household and causes our young men and women to spill out outside, because they're crying out for help, because they tired of their uncle molesting them, or they tired of their mama beating them on the street doing what she want to do, and nobody even sit down and ask the question, what's going on? That's what's happening out here. And that's why we have so many people out here depressed, upset, angry, because they crying out, but nobody's listening, and you won't even sit down and be a sounding board. Sometimes we have to be sounding boards. We have to let our children express themselves the way that they express themselves. And unless you're looking for the violence that's taking place now, or even more tragic, because it's one thing to be out there, but it's another thing when the police show up at your doorstep saying, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, just gunned down. You know what I'm saying? And then we want to cry, we want to act out. Oh, my child ain't never did nothing. But if you had took the time to see what was going on in that young man's life or that young lady's life, then you would have known that something was wrong with them, and then you could have got them some form of help.
Backing up to piggybacking on what you just said, that when the police shows up at the door and say I hate to be the bearer of bad news, and you know, and the parents,
and not to cut you off,
okay.
But Yolanda said, Raymond, but some of these fathers are teaching their sons the wrong way as well.
Oh, come on, girl.
He said a lot of these sons has seen the father do bad things, so they follow them, and that's called a learned behavior. So I'm not saying that all fathers are good and all fathers are bad, but it's a necessity to have a male figure in their life. It necessarily don't have to be the father, but it has to be a male figure who has compassion and can understand what they're going through. And once they help them all where they can help them, and they can no longer feel like they can help them, then that's when you turn them over to somebody who can. That's why they got psychiatrists and doctors to see what's going on with little Johnny, see what's going on with Raymond. Something's wrong with Raymond. Raymond